Welcome to the Man Sports Fan Podcast. This is Chill Up 26. Phil Schultz with you. I'm here with Fremdog, Millionaire, and Christopher P. Allen Smith. Guys, it has been a while. How's it going?
Glad to have the band back together. Feels great. Been a good summer. Let's go.
Summer. I mean, we gotta enjoy our time, and we got plenty to talk about. So it's good to have a little break again. Football season's coming around the corner, so it's a good time of year here.
It is kind of the dead period of sports in a lot of ways, although WNBA is semi-relevant, which is cool. Baseball's been going, obviously. There are these people that are in cars that drive around in a circle. That is happening.
Let's go. Let's go.
What's the top two things that have happened in your life in the last month?
Two things that have happened.
Top two things.
Love
Yes.
being on the spot right now.
That's what I do.
Yeah, going to my first ever race of people driving around in a circle. Did that with Chris and the gang. So that was definitely a highlight of the summer. And yeah, I just have family. Just family all around, seeing a lot of different people. Yeah, it's good to see family. So that's been there for the summer, just chilling.
Brian Fremming, family man.
Bam.
NASCAR enthusiast.
Slinger, Wisconsin.
Slinger, Wisconsin. Here we go. With Vinny Meatballs, too.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh,
It's a good
Vinny
time.
Hill.
That's what's
Yeah.
up.
Yeah. So Heather and I went to Europe. So that was cool. We went to Spain and Italy and toured around a little bit. So I had a great time. Did that for about 10 days. And actually, a couple of days before that, went to Iowa for a NASCAR race. First ever NASCAR race in Iowa. So
Dang.
that was pretty sweet. And yeah, it's just been a quick summer so far, but also there's still some time left. So we're kind of in that happy medium right now. How about you, Phil?
For me, two things. I mean, there's a lot of it that's been going on. It's been awesome. I got a Traeger grill, smoker
Huge.
/ grill. Yep, and I feel a little more manly, which is awesome. And I've been playing this game, unfortunately called Monopoly Go, for the last week, and it really is like a slot machine. It's one of the most addicting games I've ever played. I will tell you, it is very fun to play, but it is so addicting. Don't play the game. Well,
What is the best part about it?
Oh, I don't know, dude. It's just I love Monopoly already, and so it's like an app game where you get to continue to build up different boards. Get tons of points. It's exciting, and again, it's like a slot machine because you never know what's going to happen. You never know what you're going to get. There's just something about it. I don't know, but I'm probably going to go about a week more. And that's it.
Okay. Do you remember in college or shortly after college, we would schedule date nights to play Monopoly virtually with I don't know who played. It was like Britton, you and I. Heather played sometimes. Just had a
Carl,
crew that would get together and play Monopoly. Carl, yeah.
it's the best, man. Yeah, Monopoly, like the original board game with the rules, is so.
You got to know, though, Phil, Monopoly usually takes a lot of time. That's usually why I avoid the game of Monopoly. You bring Monopoly, look at how much time I have, and I say no. So can you sell me on why you should play this game? Because I just think of I don't have time. I talk about the family.
Monopoly Go? Yeah. No, totally. You're a family man. Monopoly Go or the board game Monopoly?
Monopoly Go. I want to know about this.
I told you, don't play the game. I'm finding time. As we were talking on this, I was on the phone. I turned off my phone because I was kept going back to the game. I had to stop.
So does it just
I want to get.
keep going?
It just keeps going, and I mean, at some point you run out of rolls, and you have to stop playing, or you buy, which I haven't bought anything.
Don't buy.
I've had enough self-restraint there. But I want to talk to eventually get Heather Smith in on this because she also played for a long time. Is that right, Chris?
That's dumb. Nothing to say about that.
Here we go.
I want to know what her experience is. I also want to know what board number she got to. because I'm on like board 17, and that is pretty far up the rank.
17?
It's not skill. There's no skill either, so. All right, enough of this. Let's get to more important things like a fantasy NASCAR update. In first place, we have Frem with 2,877 points. Chris is second with 2,770. The Brian Schwarzenator, the Schwartz be with you, 2,694. And Philander Smith, father of Chris Smith, with 2,610. Is it just you four, or there's more people?
No, we got 10. It usually dwindles a little bit throughout the year. I think we start with 12, down to 10. Frem's holding the lead, but I'm approaching quickly.
Pretty proud. I thought it was going to tail
Yeah.
off. Usually I just give up and quit halfway through, but I'm holding on to this lead. So, and it's mid-July, so feeling good.
Yeah, more than halfway through.
Frem, how many years have you done this? What year is this for you?
I started back probably 8 or 9 or 10 years ago, somewhere like that. Yeah.
Okay, so you know the sport, or
yes,
you know the league. Okay.
Yep.
Who's 10th? Anybody we know?
It's actually a good question. Probably one of my nephews. They tend to fade in and out.
It's not their fault, dude. They're like 10.
Yeah.
Also, yeah,
They shouldn't even be doing fantasy
younger.
NASCAR this early, Like betting, you're already having them gamble on people in cars.
Keep them away from Monopoly Go, man.
Yeah.
That's so true. So true. I did expect better from Phil Smith, but
he's
there's
he comes on as the year goes on. So he's won the last 2 weeks. He's on a roll.
Well, I feel like he knows the racer so well that because you could only use them so many times, right?
Right. I've burned through some. Okay.
I feel like at some point you should explain the rules to us more in depth on the podcast. But we have a lot to do, so I don't want to do it today.
Not today. Okay.
But
not today.
okay, that is our fantasy NASCAR update. Great, love that.
I'm proud of you.
Okay,
I'm proud of you, friend.
Family man. All right, let's get to soccer, or football, as some people call it, meaning the rest of the world. Did you guys watch these kind of summer tournaments, the Euro tournament, which is kind of the best teams in Europe, or the Copa America, which is North-South America? Have you guys been watching? Have you liked it, enjoyed it? What has stood out to you? Go for it.
Watch Copa America, in and out. And yeah, you're just reminded on the national stage how much football to the world means to everyone. Like, it's just wild seeing the national pride come out. Just seeing so many smaller countries just rally and go crazy. It's exciting, and there's nothing quite like it. I think it's for the world. I mean, I think that's like the pinnacle of sports. I think. I know the Olympics are coming up, but the World Cup brings out something in the world that I just don't know if anything else in sports attains.
I watched a lot. I love the timing of the games kind of being during the day. So that was pretty cool. Actually, when we were on our trip in Europe, I got to watch a lot of games. For example, England games and Spain games with people that are from there, like watching games with them was pretty awesome. And like Frem said, like you walk around anywhere in those countries and all you see are soccer fields. I mean, it's a whole different like dynamic, and it's pretty awesome to see. But I was happy with both finals. They were awesome. It was sad to see Messi get hurt, but the fact that they rallied and won, and then that Spain-England game was awesome too. I mean, I think we were spoiled the whole tournament, to be honest. There's a lot of great games.
Yeah, I didn't watch as much Copa. I watched some. I think when the U.S. got out, I was a bit dejected from that. And so I just kind of, I didn't really follow much after. I watched a decent amount of Euros, as much as I could. Just give I know the final of the Euro match was Spain 2, England 1. What was the final of the Copa?
Argentina 1-0.
1-0.
Colombia.
Okay.
And it was
You
in
don't
like it was in like the 114th minute. It was it was crazy.
Holy crap. Okay. That's crazy. Well, I think if anything with these summer tournaments, one, I think the exposure of soccer is becoming, a lot more people are aware of all these tournaments going on. People know the players more than they ever used to, whether that's FIFA video games or that's more EPL exposure on NBC. It feels like a lot more Gen Z in particular and Gen Alpha, the younger crew, watching soccer live, which I think for us as kids in our, middle school years or elementary school years, high school years, we never watched it live. I think for me, it really started in college. So I feel like the exposure is getting more. The U.S. losing is dejecting because, I feel like for this country in particular, we need to build more momentum in order for people to kind of get more and more into it, because it's still considered by some boring. They don't want to watch it. They're called field fairies, by the Muchísimo men in our country, right? So it's kind of one of those where, like, I think the tide is changing, but it sucks that the U.S. can't get any momentum. They did fire their coach, so it'll be kind of interesting to see what happens. Do you guys want to do fantasy EPL in the fall?
Yeah, I always wanted to do it, and I feel like you talk about momentum, I'm feeling it with my watching of it. So yeah, I'd be in.
Well, you're a Chelsea fan now. It's a beautiful thing.
The dark side. Yeah.
It is. You've joined the dark side. It's true. It's not always fun being the dark side, but Frem, who did you pick again? Tottenham? Have you gotten your Sun jersey yet?
Yeah. Let's go.
Okay, good. A worse London team. Okay, well, let's see if we do it. It's definitely different where it's like you have an amount of money that you spend on whatever players you want. Like me and Frem could both have, I don't know. We could both have Cole Palmer from Chelsea on our team if we want to spend the money on that player. So it's kind of different than MLB or NFL, where you draft a player, no one else has that player in your league. So we'll maybe check it out. We'll dabble. It'll be kind of fun, especially if it's just us three, because then we can kind of talk about it. Plus, I think grow into our understanding of the league more, because I think for you guys, you haven't ever watched EPL more consistently. So it could be the year that you start doing that. Something to Christian ponder.
Oh,
okay,
Christian.
Cool. Let's go to fantasy baseball winners and losers, right? The first half has ended. The All-Star celebrities, the All-Star festivities with the celebrities started tonight. So let's get to actually before we get to our winners and losers of the first half fantasy baseball. Do you guys care about the futures game, the celebrity softball game, the draft, which is also going on right now, the home run derby, All-Star game? Do you guys watch it? Do you care?
It's the worst part of the baseball season when games are not being played. So I think when I was younger, got into the home run derby when some of the greats were playing. But no, I just can't get into the home run derby anymore. All their shenanigans. Want the All-Star game to be played, maybe check in on that, and just want games to come back. That's where I'm at. Just keep it moving.
I'm the opposite. I get into most of it. I actually think MLB does the All-Star Week the best of any sport. The home run derby is still relevant. It's like year 37 or something like that. The All-Star game's still cool, even though it doesn't, like, home field doesn't matter. It's just cool to see all those players on the field at the same time. And the futures game's sick because I follow prospects a lot. So it's fun to watch those guys. A lot of times for the first time actually in person. A lot of times I just look at their stats. And the draft is something I'm actually kind of tailing away from. Like, I like the draft, but the fact that the relevancy of those players, it's so far away for most of them that it's just hard to, like, get excited about players.
Gosh, I'm in the middle of both of you. Because, like, I'm like Frem. I kind of don't watch a lot of the All-Star game, the home run derby. I watched Alec Boehm and Teoscar Hernandez go against each other. So I watched that a little bit tonight, but usually I don't watch. I might watch an inning. I kind of want to watch Paul Skeens just for an inning, just because he's starting the All-Star game. Like, that'll be pretty cool. By the way, if you haven't seen the Dan Patrick interview with him, what he's told that he's going to be pitching the All-Star game. You should go watch it on YouTube. It's awesome. But I do get into the MLB draft. And not that I'm following pick by pick, but I am going and looking at, especially who the Cubs are picking, and reading stuff about them. If there's any videos up there, I'll watch a little bit, just because I'm curious. Not because I know it matters a ton, because like Chris said, so if a player's drafted in high school, it could be 5 years before they're in the MLB or more. But I just like that stuff. And even just kind of knowing some of the Cubs' potential prospects coming up. You don't have any idea who they are.
I think I want to jump in because I do think the country has an opportunity to showcase college baseball more. And I think if that was the case, that we would start to care about those things a little bit. We'd start to know the players, right? Like I know 3 players in college baseball, and I follow baseball a lot just because you don't watch it outside of when the College World Series comes on. So if there was a way now with NIL, players going to college more than being drafted out of high school, let's showcase college baseball. It's actually a great product.
I also agree with you, Ted, Chris. I think MLB probably does it the best of all the major sports. With All-Star weekends. Not a fan of many All-Star weekends, but I do think they do it well.
Do you remember they used to have the draft while games were on? It was the stupidest thing. At least they figured that out of hey, there's no games on, we'll do the draft. So they're making some progress.
Well, they must have seen what the NFL, NBA's doing and finally picked up on oh, we got to try to market these players. Even if they're kind of no names, because even if the public gets some information on them, that might make them more, care a little bit more, or try to maybe follow that player or, follow their team a little bit more or something. All right, well, let's move to kind of winners and losers of the fantasy baseball season so far. And there's just different ways to look at this because, we all have the stats in front of us, right? But I'm curious how you guys kind of thought about it for your category. So what we'll do is we kind of split it up here, but for the each position, catcher, first base, down, we'll have one winner and one loser, and so we'll kind of all switch off together on that. So let's start with catcher, and I have the first or the winner of that one, and I'm going to pick Salvador Perez, and here's why. William Contreras has been great. Adley Rutschman's been great. Salvador Perez is old. I want to say he's 37. Does that sound right?
Close.
He's older. He's older. And he wasn't drafted, if you looked at his ADP, it was not very high. He was a pretty solid, he's been a solid fantasy catcher throughout his time. Most likely he's been drafted around 8th catcher. And I'm not 100% sure on that, but it's not a high ADP. His stats this year have been very, very good. He's been very, very strong. I know he's been on kind of a slight downturn recently, but putting up top 5 catcher numbers, has 17 home runs, 62 RBIs, batting .282. And for anybody that's watching baseball, even a 280 average is pretty good these days. And so I'm going to pick Salvador Perez as the winner.
Other side, I'm going to pick a top catcher that I think was ranked top 2, JT Realmuto, injured right now. And I think kind of that opposite side of the spectrum from where you're at, Phil, a guy who I think most thought he still had something in the tank, not performing. He's on the decline right now. So unfortunately, not getting it done. Maybe second half bounce back, but I think there's a decline there. I think it's going to be ranked a lot lower moving forward. And just not a top 2 catcher. I think we all picked that early in the year, though.
So first base, I'll take the winner, and I'm going with Josh Naylor. And the reason is because he was undervalued to start the year. He was going off the board as first baseman, 12 or 13. He was getting no respect. He comes out this year, he's not killing it with average. I think he's hitting 245. But he's got 22 home runs, 70 RBIs. He barely strikes out. The guy just puts the ball in play and he makes things happen. and he's the third first baseman overall right now in the first half. So, and he's on a good team. So, anyone that bought low on Josh Naylor is loving him.
And he's this weird player where like he's hitting 245 right now, but he can hit 400 in a month. I mean, I think he did that 2 months last year. I mean, the guy can really the guy gets a ton of contact on the ball and makes things happen. I think the amount of RBIs he has is crazy. I have the loser for first baseman. And to me, this is pretty easy. It's Matt Olson for the Braves. This is a guy who was being drafted, I think, top 5, top 10 in most drafts. And this year, he's just been very poor. 13 home runs, 44 RBIs. Okay, numbers. Batting .229. And this is definitely a downturn from what he's done the past couple years. And I think for you guys that do own him, it's got to be shocking because the last three years he put up 39 home runs, 111 RBIs, 34 home runs, 103 RBIs, and 54 home runs, 139 RBIs. So definitely probably one of the biggest busts of the year so far. Let's move to second base. Fremdog, who you got?
With the winner, easy pick here, Ketel Marte, 30 years old. Last year, for the season, he had 25 bombs, 82 RBIs, a 276 average. Currently midway, already has 19 bombs, 57 RBIs, and a 292 average. So this guy clearly overperforming for, I think, what people thought he would do this year. I think definitely the best second baseman in the league right now, and at a very weak position. I think I would put it right behind catchers, probably the weakest fantasy position out there. Hard to find quality catchers. So if you have Ketel Marte, you're loving it right now, as our league mate Garrick does in first place. Not salty at all. Okay.
You'll get through it. Chris Smith.
Second base is kind of a wasteland. I mean, I think you alluded to that, Frem. I mean, I look at guys like Jackson Holliday, who I drafted really high, came up and struggled. Zach Geloff was coming off a huge year with Oakland. He's really struggled. I'm going with Xander Bogaerts, and I know he's been hurt, so he hasn't gotten the full at bats. But his on base is under 300. Like he's just like he's a contact hitter, and when you're not getting on base, like it's hard to have other stats that really like increase. So he's just someone that feels like he's sort of on the downturn of his career a little bit. I think he's approaching 30, so you never really know. But I just like if I owned him in a dynasty league, I'd try to like ship him off while his name is still relevant because just I don't know if I see a huge bounce back at any point in the next couple of years.
Let's move to third base. I have the winner of that. And for me, it could have been a couple names. Like Jose Ramirez has obviously had a very, very good year, but that's pretty on par with him. I'm going to go with Alec Bohm, who was just in our home run derby. And really, he's just been consistent all year. I know his average right now is 295, pretty high in the league. At one point, I think he was around 330 and kind of hovering around that pretty consistently. But he has 11 home runs, 70 RBIs. The guy's just an on-base machine. He gets on a lot. So I think in terms of where he's drafted, that seems like the kind of one of the higher third basemen for me. Frem, who is the loser here?
Could have rained on the entire Atlanta Braves team. I feel like there are a ton of underperformers there. Austin Riley, I think, definitely could fit the bill here. But I'm going with missed out potential, and I'm afraid this guy is gonna be like his teammate, Mr. Byron Buxton. Royce Lewis just cannot stay healthy. He has 89 at-bats, and he has 10 home runs and 18 RBIs. So if the guy can get on the field and stay on the field, he could be great. But I just am worried about him, 25 years old, wondering what this career path will look like. Will we ever see Royce Lewis on the field consistently? And you start seeing these guys, they rack up the injuries, and you start losing confidence in rostering them and drafting them higher. So, just missed potential with Royce Lewis. Hope we can bounce back here and make something the second half.
Chris, shortstop, the winner.
My winner is CJ Abrams, and I'm just calling back to this was my sort of sleeper heading into the year. He's had a great first half. What does he have? 15 homers, 48 RBIs, 15 stolen bases, 831 OPS. For a guy who's undersized, and a lot of people really question his power, I think he's kind of the next Trey Turner. That's what his career arc is reminding me of. So CJ Abrams, Like, love him long term, but also like I don't see him falling off in the second half. I think he'll stay pretty consistent.
For me, there's two names, that stood out. I think for the loser, one being O'Neal Cruz, but he's kind of picked it up, and I don't want to pick on him too much. He still has max exit velocity, which is fun to watch, and he's been pretty regular average. For me, I think the biggest loser here is Dansby Swanson. It's not that Dansby Swanson's getting drafted super early, 12th round, 13th round, 14th round, somewhere in there. He has just been so bad all year. This was after signing, I want to say, a 7-year, $177 million contract. This is, a year ago. Am I right on that? Is that the right number? Okay, it's close. Okay, cool. But yeah, just been really poor. I mean, 9 home runs, 31 RBIs, batting .212. Pretty much been a year-long slump when he's supposed to kind of be a leader of a team. To the outfield, we got a couple outfield players we'll talk about for winners and losers here. Frem, start us out with the winner.
Just want to say guys like Brenton Doyle deserve a shout out. Christian Yelich, love to see his bounce back here. Could easily pick the teammate here, Aaron Judge. He is destroying the ball and should hit over 60 home runs. But I'm going to go with Juan Soto. First all-star starter selection of his career, which baffles me. I'm like, how has this guy never been selected to be a starter? Maybe injuries, I don't know what. But just really cool to see Juan here with his first year starting the All-Star game. And yeah, he's crushing the ball in New York, doing very well. And yeah, interesting to see how, career path has been and moved around and whatnot. But I think he's found a really good home in New York, and he's crushing the ball.
Chris Smith, what's a loser for us?
I hate to rag on the injured players, but to me, it's Mike Trout. He cannot stay healthy. In fact, I posted on our group chat, he hasn't played on the 4th of July since 2019, and he hates America. But he's also killing fantasy baseball teams by not being able to stay healthy. I think this is just who he is at this point. I don't think he can be trusted as a top 20 outfielder anymore, which is sad because he's on a Hall of Fame career arc. But even before that, he's only hitting 220. So it's just like, I don't know who he is moving forward, but he's getting in his 30s, and I'm just not sure who Mike Trout is anymore. And he needs to get off that team too.
He's got to get off that team. It's like sad. Yeah, he's never really had a moment in the playoffs, honestly. Another outfielder to look at, this guy named Brenton Doyle. I think Frem just brought him up.
There we go.
Doyle rules. He's been awesome. Plays for the Rockies, and so if you haven't heard of him, it's because he plays for the Rockies, and they're always bad. But 15 home runs, 42 RBIs, batting .276. It's funny it feels like the Rockies always have some rookie or some player that kind of comes out of nowhere and has a bigger year. And this is another example of that for them. And yeah, he's just been raking the ball. So it's been fun to watch him play. His last 7 days, he has 4 home runs, 6 RBIs, batting .333. So a fun player to watch. What's another loser for us, Frem?
For the record, Mike Trout has 12 total postseason at bats. Wow, that's brutal. So sad. This is not how he's doing currently. So I'm hoping for some good juju here. But Julio Rodriguez traded with Mr. C. Smith 9 over there to acquire him on my fantasy baseball team. Hitting very well now.
All 3 of us have owned him.
All 3 of us have. Good luck there. He did not have a good first half. Took a deep dive reading articles on just what is going on with his swing, people exposing his swing, holes in his swing, not being able to pull the ball enough, but did not have a good first half whatsoever. Definitely did not help out Mr. Phil's team or Chris's team at all. So reason he's been traded and passed around, hoping on him bouncing back here. So, just really disappointing first half. But it looks like he's on the upswing. No pun intended.
Well, to be fair to him, he is 23 years old. So it's like, well, a lot of expectations, and it makes sense why, but still young. And, I guess pitchers are throwing 5 different kinds of fastballs now. Seth Lugo, good for you.
Lugo.
Slugo. Okay, last outfielder that's been a winner, Chris.
So this is not the guy I was going with, but I just want to give a shout out to Brent Rooker of the A's. This is why we love baseball. 29-year-old outfielder. He's really done nothing of note in his career. 21 home runs, 942 OPS. He's currently the 24th overall player in fantasy, which is just crazy. But my player is Jarren Duran of the Red Sox. I was kind of hoping he would become this player at some point. He's kind of like an Andrew Benintendi type player when he was in his prime, but he's stolen 20-plus bases, hitting 284. I mean, in the top of that Red Sox lineup, which is actually a really good lineup. So he's kind of just a solid player to own. He's never going to be super flashy, but a player that's going to be surrounded by good hitters, and he's going to get on base and do some damage that way. So love Jarren Duran.
I like how you bring up Andrew Benintendi. He might be the lowest WAR player in the league currently, and so Chris, you'll have to fact check me on that.
Yeah, he fell off the cliff, didn't he?
He did. It's very sad.
He was a good player.
I know. I think some injuries, other stuff going on. My loser here, just for where he was drafted, for I think what people expected, is Adolis Garcia. 17 home runs, 45 RBIs. It's not horrible production, especially in the home runs category, but he's batting .211 in a stacked lineup. And for where he was drafted, which often was in the top 36, probably round 2, disappointing. I haven't watched him closely enough to see if there's any signs of life, but just not consistent. And anybody batting .211, while you can start in the MLB with that, it's hard to play him in fantasy. It's just hard to play him in fantasy because of the lack of hits. Let's get to pitching. We're going to highlight a couple starting pitchers here, a relief pitcher as well. Frem, who is the winner of starting pitching in your mind?
The guy I should have picked for Cy Young winner. I want him in fantasy. Thought he'd be really good. He is really good. Mr. Tarek Skubal, or as my team name is, scuba diving, or Skubal diving. So he's nasty, and just, recently got to see a little bit of him pitch live, and his stuff is just really hard to hit, basically. He throws a lot of different pitches and puts them all over the place, locates very well with a lot of speed. And so he's got 117 innings, something like that right now. Hoping that can continue. I think his max has been 149 or so in his career. So just got to hope he can continue the success right now. But Mr. Tarek Skubal, I think, should be the AL Cy Young if he keeps this up.
Chris, who's your number one loser?
With Kevin Gausman, and he actually has been picking it up lately, but he was going off the board as starting pitcher 6 to start the year, and he's just not putting up the counting stats that you want to see. I mean, his Ks are fine. He's got 104 Ks and 104 innings, but his WHIP's a 131, his ERA is a 4.50. He's just not producing at the ace level that he was drafted at. And he hasn't been hurt, so it's just been performance. So we'll see. I actually think he's a good bounce back candidate, but really struggled in the first half.
Chris, didn't you call that as the kind of the bust for starting pitchers this year?
I did. That's kind of why I brought this back. But we'll see.
That's why you're also on the podcast, my friend. It gives us credibility because there's not a lot of credibility with the other two of us. So, Chris Sale is my next winner for starting pitchers. Man, and what a turnaround. Obviously, this guy has been dominant in the league at times. He's 35 years old. He's 13-3, ERA of 2.70, 140 Ks, WHIP 0.95. He's just been tearing it up since going to the Braves. I think people thought he could be a sleeper. He was drafted a little bit later in drafts. I think people thought, okay, he has the potential. I think for most people, they wouldn't have said, oh, he's going to be a top 5 pitcher in the game this year, at least to this point. So it's super cool to see. And if there's anything that's good for the Braves, Frem, what's another loser within starting pitching?
A guy I owned and no longer own. I need to figure out what he's doing right now. He's not even playing baseball right now. So Mr. Mr. Yu Darvish. His first name is great for fantasy baseball team names, but right now he is no good for your actual fantasy team. He was off to a slow start, got injured. Now he's like off of, whatever, he's on the whatever list that you don't have even baseball activities right now. Can't think of the name of that list right now. But yeah, no good for your fantasy team. I cut him recently, just where anyone would have drafted him, in some of those mid tiers for pitchers. He is not performing, and given his age, I wonder if he'll play much anymore at all. So, not great confidence in Mr. Yu Darvish, once an ace of the game.
Chris, our last starter.
Before I do it, shout out to the cousin, Eric Kristoviak, for calling the Chris Sale bounce back breakout season. I feel like if he was in Vegas, he would have put down a few bucks on him to win the Cy Young. My winner is Logan Gilbert, who I have a lot of regret and no ownership of him in any fantasy leagues. And I loved him. It just didn't work out. But he's got, his whip is a 0.87. Which, if anyone knows me, like, whip is my favorite pitching category. I think that says a lot about a pitcher. He's not blowing guys away with strikeouts, but he gets guys to put the ball on the ground. He's just so solid. He's becoming an ace, and I don't think anyone really knows who Logan Gilbert is outside of the immediate fantasy world. So I think, and he's like 25 years old. So Logan Gilbert is a stud and someone I would feel very confident.
Yeah, I love that guy. I really do. My loser is Zach Eflin. Pitcher for the Rays, ADP was around 75. Some people thought he was being undervalued at 75. He's right now 5-6, an ERA around 4, 78 Ks and about 100 innings, whip of 1.12, which is not a bad whip by any means. But he is known for the Ks. He's known for the strikeouts. So to have very few strikeouts for how many innings he's pitched, it's disappointing. And I think, again, this is not like he's the worst starting pitcher ever, that kind of thing. But more so that I think based on where he was drafted, he's just underwhelmed. And he actually is a trade candidate, really, because the Rays haven't been great in the AL East. And AL East is so strong this year that he could be on the move. So, and then finally, relief pitcher. Let's just give a winner and loser for each of the for one of those. Frem, who's the winner here?
I think there's no doubt here, Emmanuel Clase, just if I'm saying his name right. But he is amazing. His stats here are just video game-esque. He has a 0.81 ERA with a 0.68 whip. Let that sink in for a second. 39 Ks and 5 walks in over 44 innings. Like, stuff is pretty nuts here. 29 saves, 4-1 record, only 3 blown saves. This guy is insane. I'd have to just see where he ranks right now in just a half a season all time. And if he can keep this up, he might set a record here. Dude just looks lights out right now. And he's 26 years old. So dude has an ability to have an amazing career if he can keep this up.
Chris, the loser.
I went with Camilo Doval just because he was drafted as a pretty high relief pitcher. He has 17 saves, which take that for what it's worth. But a 4.38 ERA with a 1.62 whip, 24 walks. He's just not. He's pretty erratic, and he's just not getting guys out consistently, which is interesting because he was kind of that one guy that a lot of people are targeting early. And I think his ability to throw strikes is really going to hurt him, and maybe won't keep him as a closer for as long as we thought.
Well, in a standard league, if you're just getting saves, then maybe you still want to own him because you're like, hey, well, I need the saves. But if you're in a saves plus holds, what is that called again? Solds? Yeah, I think that's what they call it. If you're in a save plus holds, then it's one of these where like, okay, do I need to keep him? Could I even trade him? I think it's one of those where you have closers with bad ERAs, David Bednar being another one, where you're like, what do I do with a guy like this? Because he's obviously getting the opportunities. All right. There's more we could have talked about in terms of winners, losers. I think what's so interesting about baseball is this could all turn around. Kevin Gausman could have a dominant second half and it completely turned that around. It's not always like this for fantasy football, but for fantasy baseball, sometimes there's first half players and sometimes there's second half players. It's just kind of interesting, even when you look at some of the stats over time. Some players are just better in the second half. Julio Rodriguez being one of them, it seems like, the early parts of his career. So be interested to see how it plays out. We're going to transition away from baseball to football. Now we're like a couple months away, but we're starting to kind of inch into fantasy football season. I know for many of you out there listening, and there's many of you, that there are leagues that are being created and that draft times are being set. And so you're starting to kind of get your head and your mind into fantasy football. And maybe for some of you haven't thought about it at all, and this will be maybe the first time that you're thinking about it. What we're going to do coming up here is a mock draft that's kind of live. 30 seconds a pick. Chris, do you want to kind of explain it and how that'll feel for the audience?
So it's 30 seconds per pick. It's just us three with, I believe, 9 computer players. So they're going to pick really quickly. So this draft's going to take place over like 15 minutes. But our goal is to kind of share what we're thinking. We're doing this in real time. And a lot of us haven't put a lot of time into fantasy football yet. So it's just a way to kind of get names out on the table. We're also modeling this after the fantasy league that we're in, which is a super flex league, meaning that you can start a second quarterback in a flex spot. So you'll see that that's probably going to drive the value of quarterbacks to be a little higher than if you're in a one quarterback league. We're not drafting kickers, defense, IDP. We're just doing straight offensive players. And I think it's 14 rounds, so should go pretty quick.
Cool. What we'll do then is, Chris, how about you start it here? And what we'll do is, again, because the CPU is going to go pretty fast, and again, it's 30 seconds, so there's not a lot of time here. But yeah, I think for a lot of us, again, maybe you haven't thought about fantasy yet, and so it's worth kind of just almost rehashing for you, or giving you kind of an introduction to, maybe what a fantasy mock draft will look like as it goes here. As you set it up, it's worth thinking about, in a super flex, which is becoming more popular, that you have 2 QBs that you're choosing from. And in a 12-team league, which a lot of us operate in, or 10 to 12 teams, it's worth thinking about, well, do I take 2 top QBs early and not take the stud receiver or stud running back? Do I wait for a second quarterback late, even if it's a top, kind of a bottom 10 one? Do I take like 3 quarterbacks, 2 kind of being in that bottom tier, as hoping one kind of works out? Chris, is this 6 points per touchdown that you have based on?
I did not have the opportunity to change any settings, but we would assume, I think the standard is a 4. So we would assume that. I don't think it'll change the value of the quarterbacks, though.
Okay, cool. So what Chris did, if you're not able to see, or you're not watching this, you're listening, Chris shared the draft board on here, and we'll just kind of, so if you're able to watch it, cool. But otherwise, we'll just kind of talk through it together as we go. All right.
So it looks like I'm pick 4, Phil, you're pick 8, and Frem, you're pick 11.
I really wanted pick 8.
That's how this is going to go.
Where I wanted to be. Now, are they going to go fast here?
I'm trying to. We're doing this in real time, so we're gonna figure that out here.
The draft log.
Okay, so we're moving here. Here we go. Oh, I'm up. All right.
All right. So Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, and Lamar Jackson just went off the board. Slim Smitty 34 is up next. That's Chris.
Wow, all the quarterbacks. I'm gonna take Mahomes for sure.
No, why Mahomes and not wait? Why not get McCaffrey or something like that?
So I'm going to take Mahomes because in a 2 QB league or Superflex, you really want to get a QB as early as you can to solidify, at least get one strong one.
So I'm next. I don't have a ton of time here. Just kind of looking. I'm going to go Tyreek, actually. I'm going to go Tyreek over CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb's holding out still. I think he'll be back. I think Tyreek, when healthy, is the best receiver in the league, and wants to get better and better. He predicted a 2,000 yard this past season. He got close, and I think he'll have one more really dominant year, so I'll take him early. Chris, would you have gone QB?
I didn't see who was all there, but maybe. Depends.
Oh, Jordan Love went 12, everybody.
J Love, let's go.
It's pretty amazing.
Bold strategy. I don't know if I like what I'm doing here.
So from you and CD, and then what? You could go Chase on the way back, or Justin Jefferson.
With my guy here. I'm banking on a big season with Bijan, so he's got to be better than last year.
Okay, so who you got? Bijan.
Yep.
That's a good pick in the second round.
Yeah, just have to hope. Arthur Smith is no longer there. He has to be.
Look at that second round. Bijan, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson.
So I only have 10 seconds, not a lot of time. I think I'm going to go Saquon. I actually like the bounce back with the Eagles a lot, and they're going to utilize him because they paid him. So I'm really excited to have Saquon in that offense with Jalen Hurts. Obviously, a very good offensive line. Chris, do you like that above Breece Hall, Amon-Ra, St. Brown?
I like.
Here.
Yeah. Hang on, I got to make a pick.
I like the value there over Breece. I don't know if I like it over Amon St. Brown, though. I think that's going to maybe be screwed.
But I also already have a receiver. You know what I mean?
True.
Wow, these QBs are going, dude. Holy crap.
They are going.
Gotta love that Brock Purdy, round 2.
All right, so I went with Puka Nacua, and I'm coming back with Marvin Harrison Jr. I want to lock up receivers early.
Marvin Harrison.
I think it's really important to get. I just trust receivers earlier in the draft in terms of value that they can bring throughout the season. And I think we're going to see how waiting on running back looks, but I think I can do that.
Yeah, I think you'll be all right.
Oh my goodness, quarterbacks.
I went Herbert.
Yeah, look at these quarterbacks. This is pretty interesting.
I might.
But
I went Justin Herbert.
So,
sorry.
No, you go
Justin
for it.
Herbert, San Diego Superchargers. Sorry, it's Los Angeles Chargers. But yeah, I just love him, especially at this value, third round. What QB was he taking? 6, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15. I got Justin Herbert the 16th QB taken.
That feels like a really good value. I like that a lot.
Yeah, that won't happen in good leagues, but in this Fantasy Pros league with a lot of CPUs, it worked out. So.
But this does show, like, anyone that's following, what do we have, 19 QBs off the board already? In a Superflex league, this isn't that uncommon. Like, this is pretty high, but it's not that far off.
Oh, Kelsey.
So Friend went Stafford and Kelsey. So we do start a tight end, so that's nice.
Yeah. Yeah, if you don't start a tight end, I don't know if I would buy drafting him there. But what are you going to do at QB in a 2 QB league? I do not recommend the no QB strategy or trying to play with, the bottom feeders. It does not work. I've tried it before. So 2 QB leagues, please find someone. And I don't trust Aaron Rodgers coming off of his injury. I'm not sure what that team will look like. Not sure if he'll play a full season.
You don't think Rodgers over under 15 games or 14 and a half. Does he play? You think he plays less than 15 games?
Correct. I just do not trust there.
Christopher P. Allen Smith.
Hey, I'm drafting. Okay.
As you draft here.
What was the prompt?
Aaron Rodgers games played 14 and a half. Over
I'll go over. I think he plays most of the season, if not all of it.
Oh, I need a draft. Okay. Let's see here. Ooh.
Yeah. So while Phil's drafting, I took Rachaad White, who I love as a running back. So he's my RB1, and then I came back with Devonta Smith, who another year with Jalen Hurts. I think he's going to continue to ascend. Phil, what'd you go with?
I just picked Kenneth Walker. I'm going to wait on QB. I don't need another one yet. I think I'll be able to get one a little bit later. I liked him better than some of the better receivers that were out there. Don't feel like I need to go tight end yet. And I I think I'm going to take upside and age over somebody like Alvin Kamara, who I really like but gets hurt a lot and hasn't really played a full season in a while.
So
Stephon Diggs.
Dude, Debo. Well. So Frem, you got Debo in the 5th round? That's pretty good value.
I had a panic bet you. I took second QB.
Took Baker?
Took Baker.
I mean,
you don't want Rodgers, huh?
Do not trust in Rodgers.
Really surprising. All right, let's see here. Is T. Higgins signed his contract yet?
I think he's a 1 year. I don't think he's signed, but he's got 1 year there.
I'm gonna go T. Higgins then.
Higgins. Okay, so who went here? Ramondre Andrews. Okay, so I'm gonna take Dalton Kincaid. I'm a believer. They have no other weapons on that team.
It's a great pick.
If I can take him, let me take him, please. Here we go. And then
I wonder if he's tight end 2, tight end 1 or 2 this year. Dalton Kincaid.
Yeah. Oh, Deshaun Watson went. That's killer. That's who I was going to take. Okay, so then I am going to come back with it's a lot of pressure here on the moment or on the spot. I'm going to take George Pickens. I think he might ball out with Russell Wilson.
Well, I really wanted to take Aaron Rodgers, but he was taking just the pick before me. It's very sad. So, I'm going to go Trey McBride, tight end, because he was a beast with Murray. And for everything I've read is that Trey McBride is just a baller. That actually, he is not just kind of this weird flash in a pan rookie or flash in a pan second-year player, but that he was dominant. And so I'm going to take him knowing that it's a little bit of a risk, but the other tight ends out there I don't trust all that much outside of Kyle Pitts, who is interesting for sure.
Kyle Pitts.
Just took the Packers' best receiver, Mr. Jaden Reed. So I trust. I think he's the number 1 target in Green Bay.
By the way, kudos to Team 12 for going Najee Harris, Jalen Warren back-to-back. Just locking up the tandem.
Does anybody know how long Tank Dell is out for? Is he going to be healthy to start the year? So we're good.
I'm going to find out.
I don't think he's out long, if at all. Just going to be slow coming back a little bit.
I honestly think he's the number 2 receiver on that team. And I honestly think Stephon Diggs is number 3. Maybe a bold take.
Yeah. All right, so I am on the board. Here we go.
Going second QB yet?
I was thinking about it. It's kind of just a wasteland right now.
You could get your boy Bryce Young again.
I could.
Round 2.
Yeah,
Chris picked. Why am I blanking on his name?
I got auto picked. Who did I get? I got Geno. How about that?
There you go.
Nice.
Not a bad auto pick.
All right.
We'll take it.
Would never have taken Geno Smith. Okay. So I'm back up and I need to focus. I'm going to take Austin Eckler just because I need a second running back. And I don't hate him here.
In our draft that we do with Chris and a bunch of other Whitewater people, people from Baraboo as well, we do a rookie draft. And Chris, you picked who last year?
Bryce Young, baby.
Bryce Young, his boy. I guess what did that? Yeah, reflect on that, because what were you thinking when you took him, and why don't you think it worked out?
I mean, I took Bryce Young. I took him pretty early in the rookie draft. I mean, I just trusted him coming in, being a starter from day one. I liked him in college a lot. I knew he was undersized, but he passed my eye test, which clearly is not very great. And the fact that the Panthers believed in him, I knew he didn't have a lot of weapons, but I figured long term he would really figure it out. He just never got better all year, and I eventually cut him because he was wasting a roster spot. So he's not. I don't know. I don't think he's in a position to succeed yet this year either. But I'd be curious if he's still a starter in 2 years.
Totally. We're in round 10. And at this point, you're just taking value. You're just taking guys you think could play a bigger role than maybe that it's led on in the media or whatever. You're trying to take upside plays here.
Frem, nice pick, Frem.
Yep, Frem. Who did you take?
Dunze, but the Bears received out of Washington.
Yeah, that's a real good pick.
I think, like you said, Phil, you're just looking for upside, looking at some of these rookies right now. I almost took a second quarterback. My strategy with the 2 QB league is so many quarterbacks get hurt. I think you have to at least have 3 quarterbacks, and you might even need 4. I mean, I think the way things are trending nowadays, you just it depends on your league is set up, but you can never have enough quarterbacks, especially in 2 QB league. Most quarterbacks nowadays do not play a full season, and so that's my prediction with Rodgers. I just don't think a lot of guys can stay on the field and stay healthy.
I do want to look at the round before the last one, so round 9. After Chris took Austin Eckler, you had Christian Watson, Deontay Johnson, and Rashee Rice by the computer. Those 3 receivers are all really interesting because Christian Watson could go off, theoretically. Deontay Johnson is still a pretty good receiver, and then Rashee Rice is a good receiver, but all the legal stuff, we don't really know what's going on yet with him.
Right.
Has there been any update? Does you guys know anything?
No, I don't think so. It's been pretty quiet. I think most people think he's going to play, but it's just, you never know with the NFL. All right, so who do we got here? Phil takes Chuba Hubbard.
Yeah, I took Chuba Hubbard. I know. Is he the number 1 right now? Do they still have the guy from the Eagles last year? Why am I blanking on his name?
No, I think Miles Sanders. I think he's still number 1. Yeah. Jonathan Brooks they drafted. That's right.
Oh, that's right. And I think why also doing these kinds of mock drafts, not that you need to do a lot of them, but if you do 1 or 2 beforehand, it makes you think about players in the moment that you could draft and be like, wait, what do I remember about this player? What do I like? What competition do they have that's new from the draft or on their team? Brian, you just took Gus Edwards. You want to talk about why you took him?
Yeah, I think new team, so hard to know. I mean, Chris just talked about Austin Eckler earlier, and so another new team for him. You don't necessarily know what's going to happen. I think that's the risk of taking a guy going to a new team, and maybe looking at coaching, maybe look at play calling, and try to guess as to the usage. Gus Edwards, great red zone running back. How Jim Harbaugh likes to play is, what you saw in Michigan is running the ball, and I do believe Gus could definitely share a good load there in LA. So going with Gus. I gotta hope LA gets in the red zone a lot, and then he's getting those red zone touchdowns.
Hashtag going with Gus.
Ride the Gus
bus.
There it is.
There we go.
We're on the same wavelength.
That's why we do this podcast together. So yeah, I mean, it is early. Fantasy magazines, some people still buy them. You can still find those at, bookstores, grocery stores, that kind of thing. But a lot of the information is, I'd still say it's good, but it's not always relevant. Because a lot changes from when these magazines are printed in June to roughly the beginning of, August, September, when this is all going down here. All right, I got to pick. I'm feeling another QB,
Oh, yes.
Do you think Justin Fields has a chance?
No.
I like it as a wild card pick. I don't think Russell finished the season. So
yeah, I'm gonna pick him. I'm with you. I think you're right. But even still, at this moment, if you hit on something like that, it can be awesome.
Yeah, 1 round to go here, so take your dart throws.
Dart throws, indeed. Yeah, gonna go with a guy like Ooh.
What do we think about Drake? What do we think about Drake May? He's just and Bo Nix. They're kind of just sitting there. We don't really know a lot right now. Oh, Nix just went.
Yeah, I feel like it's so unknown.
Yeah,
I mean that's just it's so unknown to me. If you're thinking about backup tight ends, backup kickers, backup like anything like that, you don't really need a backup per se. Sometimes it's nice to have a backup tight end, especially if you have a wild card, on your roster. But a lot of times you want to get running backs and receivers that are, you kind of want to fill your team with those guys because you're kind of just throwing darts, hoping that it sticks, hoping that you get the guy that you want. And I think sometimes, especially, that you just feel like, I have to have a backup to every position, and you just do not have to. And if you've been doing fantasy football long enough, maybe you realize that. But if you're kind of new to it or still kind of in the first couple of years, you just don't need always backups for everything. Michael Penix just went. That was awesome.
Oh, interesting.
It's awesome. Love the pick.
Kirk Cousins is out there somewhere, upset.
I got a B-. What'd you guys get?
I got a B-.
A-.
Oh, look at you, Phil.
Obviously going to win the league.
It's
Makes
over.
sense.
Let's quit the league now.
Over.
Yep. We don't even need to play the games.
All right, so let's break this down a little bit. I got the board up. I know that the listeners can't see it, but Phil, what do you like? What do you like about what you did? Obviously, we were rushed a little bit, but
yeah, it's a bit rushed. I like all my running backs actually, at least for the most part. Just because I think Saquon, actually is safe. I know some people would maybe disagree. Chuba Hubbard had a really, really good second half of the season last year, was counted on a lot more. Tyjae Spears seems to be the guy in Tennessee now that Derrick Henry's out. And so I think they'll lean on him, especially with the rookie running back. This is weird where it's like so rushed. You don't like have that much time to think. But what I really like about the process is starting to think through players again, especially tight ends, because we're bringing back tight ends to the league this year, right, Chris?
Yes, we are.
Yep. So that I think just even getting my head around some of those things is worth it.
What about you, Frem?
Yeah, I'm probably going to agonize over looking at that Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Bijan, trio right there. I could have gone with Chase, could have gone with Jefferson. I think losing confidence in Jefferson's targets there, what that will look like. Do you pick the receiver over the QB? I think we've seen recently that you do need a serviceable QB there. We don't know what JJ McCarthy will be. Chase, not sure after the Burrow injury. Not in love with my QBs overall. Got some middling quarterbacks with Stafford and Mayfield, but love the value of Kelsey, love the value of Debo, and then obviously some upside receivers there. So overall, I think maybe I give myself a B instead of a B-, but I think with CD, Debo, Travis, I think I could be in any game with that lineup. So pretty happy overall with the value. How about you, Chris?
Yeah, I feel pretty good. I don't like getting auto pick Geno because I think Phil, you took Will Levis, who that's the guy I was going to take. I think he's got a lot of upside this year. But I basically stacked receivers early. I went Puka, Marvin Harrison, Devonta Smith, and George Pickens. I feel really good about those four. Rachaad White feels like a bell cow to me. And then I just took some flyers. Eckler, who knows what he's going to be. But Charbonnet and McLaughlin could both start at some point this year and be pretty good. And I just kept grabbing receivers, which I feel like is going to be my strategy a lot this year, is just continue to load up on receivers. There's less chance of injury risk. You can always kind of find running backs on the waiver wire throughout the year more than receivers. I actually feel pretty good about my team considering how quick that went.
I really like where you got Dalton Kincaid because I actually think he's the main target in Buffalo.
Yep,
and he was a beast last year.
Yeah.
So it'll be fun to see him play with Josh Allen. I'm just excited for that. Well, hey, just an interesting first, kind of look at fantasy. Again, you can do these mock drafts, especially if you just want some practice, especially in the moment. I have to pick a guy in the moment. What decision I'm going to make gets you thinking about that a little bit more kind of in depth.
Hey, and shout shout out to Fantasy Pros because that was awesome. We were able to do that together, and
Oh,
it was cool. So
A lot of fun.
props, Fantasy Pros. It was free
Great
to do
week
that.
practice.
So
That's
that's our sponsor for the week is Fantasy Pros.
They
Love
just
it.
made some money off of us, even if it was small amounts. We have two more things tonight. The first being the wide world of sports, around the world of sports. Boys, what's on your mind in terms of what you've watched, what you've thought about, what you've played?
Yeah, I'm gonna take a guess at what I think Chris's is. The new college football game is out, and I got a Snapchat from Chris, so I'm assuming that's what he's gonna talk about. But the Olympics are coming up, and I don't know if you're into the Olympics or basketball in the Olympics, but just seeing the men's team gear up right now for what potentially could be one of the best men's team assembled, right there with the dream team, getting LeBron, Steph Curry, KD, multiple other really good players. It's a pretty special unit they're putting together here late in their careers. Don't think they're going to be stopped by anyone. Think they're going to have a lot of great highlight reels, and it should be a lot of fun to watch Team USA this year. So pretty pumped, pretty excited about it. A couple Badgers, Nigel Hayes, Micah Potter are out there in Dubai training with them or practicing with them and scrimmages and whatnot. So it's just a pretty cool to follow them, see where the team is going, to see all these elite players on the same court. See, even Joel Embiid deciding to play with Team USA, and just so much elite talent out there, Anthony Davis, etc. So I'm excited to watch.
You knew where I was going. I appreciate that. I do, before I talk about college football, I do want to give a shout out to the NBA draft, because I do feel like that might be the worst NBA draft of all time. There was I couldn't even get excited about it because I don't know if any of those players are going to make a real impact this year. But yeah, mine is College Football 25 coming out today. I mean, it's been since 2014 or 2013 maybe, whenever the actual game was released. The last time a college football game was made. The hype is real. Today was the pre-order release date, and it looks as good as it did in 14. I haven't played it enough yet, but it's kind of nice to have a video game in 2024 that I feel like I can pick up and kind of play right away and not have to learn for 10 hours. So I'm excited to play it. They got the actual player names because of NIL. Players can opt into it. I'm just excited to play it and bring back some nostalgia.
What do the players make? Is it like $600 and the game for free? It's not a ton, but
yeah, that sounds
they got
right.
something.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think it's right around there.
I think that's about right. Yeah, 2014 was the last game made, and I looked to go buy the 2014 game, and it was being sold for a lot of money because no one knew if there ever would be another one made, and there were a lot of rumors leading up to this. So yeah, it is pretty special. I played 13 a lot, so yeah, it's pretty cool.
Had a good run.
Cool. For me, it's not like I watched a ton, but I think for the first time in a couple of years, I noticed Wimbledon. The Wimbledon tournament was going on, and it's not like I watch a ton of tennis. I used to play a lot of tennis growing up. But man, watching players like Alcaraz and Djokovic and I think just watching throughout some of the tournament, you realize how iconic that tournament is. And even some of the younger players, especially on the American women's side, like Coco Gauff, I think it's just fun to kind of go back to sports that you used to watch a lot and maybe have fallen away from, and kind of just re-experience them again. And tennis is fun to watch. I prefer watching clay, the French Open, because I think the tennis is a little more fun, especially on the men's side. But even the men's Wimbledon that I watched, it was less at the net than I remember. And so it feels like maybe players are getting better in terms of hitting their spots, kind of the deeper court. Just fun. Wimbledon tennis, just kind of iconic. All right, to our top 5, our final cue. This is interesting. Comes from Chris Smith. Your top 5 favorite video games of all time. in honor of college football 25 being released today. Who wants to start? Chris, do you want to start with this since this was kind of your thing?
Yeah, I can start. So I'll start with my number 5, and I actually cheated. I have 2 number 5s because I couldn't decide between the two. I'm going N64 here, and it's a tie between Mario Golf and WCW NWO Revenge. Both games spent a ton of time on in my childhood, and I feel like I could go pick it up now and still be dominant at both. Great games. Love the N64.
Okay, and what was number 5 for you, Chris? Or for you, Brian? Sorry.
I'm going to go with, I didn't pick a year. I've stopped playing the game probably in the last decade, but FIFA. I'll just go with FIFA in general. Really good soccer game. Played it in the Whitewater days. A lot of people. Yeah. Who could maybe think soccer could be an entertaining video game, but it is. And a lot of good times, a lot of good banter. Pack a dorm room and watch people play FIFA. It's pretty awesome. Oh, you, Phil?
Right on.
You just spoke to Phil. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we're going to talk about FIFA later. Number 5 for me was the game Twisted Metal.
Yeah.
Remember, this was for PlayStation, and you were these different car characters, and you would shoot different weapons at each other, that kind of thing. But it just is, when I still think of Twisted Metal, I just think of my 11-year-old self playing downstairs in my basement and just not even being that good, but just loving it so much. And it was one of the, I liked some of the racing games and had that element of it still. And yet it was a little bit more engagement, in terms of fighting other cars. All right, number 4, Christopher P. Allen Smith.
All right, so number 4, I'm going ESPN NFL 2K5. Which was an incredible game. Played it on the PS2.
Terrell Owens?
Yes, Terrell Owens. Played it on the PS2. It was one of the first games that really started incorporating the other stuff. For example, when you went into franchise mode and you would simulate a week, it would show Chris Berman showing highlights from those games. It would actually show clips of it. It also introduced first-person football where you could be inside the helmet and be a running back or quarterback and see the game and play it that way. It was just so progressive. And then unfortunately that series got canceled. So we never got to see it continue, but it was trending in a pretty sick direction back.
From Dog Millionaire.
Pretty awesome game. Once again, didn't go with a year, just went with the brand of a game. MLB The Show. I just think easily the best baseball game that's been made, most realistic, most exciting. Still remember being in Chris's room, staying up till maybe 3 or 4 in the morning, watching him play his character through the show. Just a really entertaining game that you could even just be a bystander and watch because it is that realistic and there is that much action that goes into it. For playing a video baseball game, MLB The Show, I think they've just gotten better and better over the years.
Now, my number 4 is this game called Virtua Tennis, which was on Dreamcast. And it was by far the best tennis game I've ever played. And honestly, the Dreamcast was ahead of its time. The NFL game for Dreamcast was cool. There were some other cool games. There was something about Virtua Tennis, though, that I'll always remember playing it. Again, maybe it's kind of those childhood memories, those core memories, but I think it's a very underrated sports game.
Dreamcast, the NFL game was one with Randy Moss on the cover, right?
It was.
Yeah, let's go.
Yep.
All right, so my number 3, I'm actually sticking in the year 2005. It's just an incredible run. But MVP Baseball 2005, Manny Ramirez on the cover. Incredible baseball game. I know Frem said the show, but in 2005, if you go play MVP Baseball, it's just again, very progressive. It had an amazing soundtrack too, which video games back in the day, the soundtrack was pretty sick on a lot of them. This one just really stands out. And the gameplay was awesome. Whether you're doing a franchise, a game, a home run derby, it's a game you could play for a long time, and another game you could pick up and play pretty quickly, which is something I appreciate about video games.
Absolutely. I can't disagree with any of Chris's takes right now. I'm going to go with, once again, genre, more of an umbrella of games. Super Smash Bros. Probably on the N64. Picked it up on the Wii. Played different versions. There's a gazillion versions of them. I'm not going to go way in depth on them, but just in general, smashing people off the map and just just having a good old time, 4-player style. Really fun. A lot of great childhood memories playing Super Smash Bros. What about you, Phil?
Shout out to Mike Miller, Nate Mazurk, Matt Kendall, and Michael Malloy /Stumbles for the hours of Super Smash Brothers that they would play in college. And they were so good.
On what system?
64.
Okay.
They were incredible. I mean, they were really that good. For me, my number 3, and again, this just comes down to what I've played the most in my life. Really what it comes down to for me. Number 3 for me, the whole FIFA series for sure, but FIFA 10 in particular. It was my junior year of college. Or sophomore, junior year of college. And man, I feel like I got that game down to like just a level that was beyond any other FIFA game that I got to the level of. And also what Chris was talking about, the soundtrack. The FIFA soundtracks from roughly 2009 to 2012-13 are just gold. They're just so good. And yeah, just so many good memories playing that game with friends. And I think even I wanted to be part of a FIFA tournament, but I think they might have had one in the UC, and I missed it, or I didn't even know it was happening, or something.
Sleeping.
So, I wish I had been more involved. You know, playing too much poker, missing too much class. All right, let's go to number 2, Chris.
All right, so my number 2 could easily be number 1, and this is college wrapped up in a nutshell. It's Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. By far the game that I played probably the most, well, definitely in college, but maybe overall. Like, the best part was you could LAN up with, like, the people in your floor and, like, team up and talk to each other. And the maps were just absolutely incredible on that game. It's a game that could still hold up today easily. And like I said, the countless hours of playing with friends and not sleeping at night, Frem alluded to, like staying up till 4 or 5 in the morning playing that game. It just never got old, no matter how many times you played online. So, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, Xbox 360. Amazing game.
Good choice. Number 2, game that Chris and I played a lot of together and in tournaments, college basketball 2K8. There's many good college basketball 2K games. I'm hoping they bring back college basketball. Do you guys know about that? They brought back football. They bring back basketball. I haven't had my ear onto that lately.
You could probably, get into the transfer portal in the next game that they make, and and just recruit players, offer them more NIL money. You'll have a whole pot for yourself.
It'd be pretty fun. Yeah.
That's how that works. Chris used to hold tournaments. Come to his house and like play all these games on multiple TVs. Really exciting game. Just a ton of action. Loved how you just go up and down. You think of playing video games, especially basketball. Sometimes they could be a little slower, just the style and just how the game played. Like you just, chuck the ball up court, run up court, jack a 3, take it to the hoop. It was just a very fluid, fast-moving game. A lot of fun to play. So definitely a lot of memories there. College basketball 2K. How about you, Phil?
My number 2 is Halo 3. So if Chris was Modern Warfare, Call of Duty, I was all in on Halo 3. Again, core memories, college, late high school, the amount of playing online or just LAN together. Halo 3, I think is still the best Halo. I like the Master Chief Collection where you can play any of the Halos. That's awesome. But man, Halo 3, that just, I don't know. That takes the cake for me in terms of those games. And then last but not least, our number 1.
Yeah, so Frem knows what's up. My number 1, College Hoops 2K8, for sure. So many tournaments held, like you said, in Baraboo. We get like 10, 12 guys together in my parents' basement, and we would play like double elimination tournaments that would happen like over a span of like 8 hours. It's just incredible. Like I said, the game, I still play the game today because the graphics hold up. And the dynasty mode on that game is like second to none. Like you can play up to 50 years. The recruiting is super fun. It's just a game that, like I said, it could still hold up in today's environment. So I hope that somehow a 2K game can be made for college basketball again. Because it's such a fun game that you can, like you said, you can get up and down. It doesn't feel like a game from 2008. Let's just call it that. And Greg Oden's on the cover too.
Phil, you and I could debate this. Halo 3 might actually be better, but Halo 2 for me is just my time of life of where I was. Just looking kind of back at what people said about Halo 2, it's one of the most highly anticipated games for the time. I think how you could play Halo, whether it was LAN parties or just like how you could be matched up into these whatever the tournaments, the games. It was just a different style of play for Halo 2, and so many core memories. High school, you guys were probably in college at that point. Basements, connecting all the Xboxes in the world to play Halo 2. A lot of core memories playing Halo 2.
Halo 2 is super good. I mean, I'm with you. It's Halo 2 or Halo 3. I think I like Halo 3 just better because it felt like a little bit more even of a game. That was just my feel of it. But Halo 2's sick. I mean, there's no doubt. My number one is Madden, and I don't necessarily have a Madden that's my favorite. But I did like, and a lot of people didn't like this, I liked when you could use pass-through vision for the QB. So I want to say that was Madden 07 or 08, where you could, in essence, move the vision of the QB before you threw it. And so you could move the safeties around in that way. And I actually liked that better. They took it away because people hated it because it's harder. Because you had like a secondary thing you had to do with the QB besides throwing it. And so, but all I have to say is the Madden franchise, ever since I was 11, not that I've gotten Madden every year, but I've gotten it most years. I think I took a bit of a hiatus maybe for 5 years, and then I came back. And to me, it's still the franchise mode. Even if the games aren't that great now, EA's been really lazy on them, honestly. I just love football so much. So like the franchise mode of that, I just fully dig into. Do you guys have any honorable mentions?
Madden was my honorable mention, so I was going to just say the Madden series is my honorable mention. I believe 06 with McNabb on the cover was where they had the vision passing on there. I thought when they hit like 2010, they were starting to do some different things with Madden. I thought that was going to be the turning point. And then they just kind of got weird as I went through college, and it just never seemed to like hit a stride. Kind of like Chris said, that with ESPN 2K5 football, like and you said, Phil, like starting to do some different things and they just don't stick. And then I don't know, Madden just seemed to keep trying to change things every year, and it never caught on. But overall, a lot of core memories playing a lot of Madden with people. Probably one of the most popular sports games just to pick up and play. For the average person.
Phil, I'm glad you asked because I actually have a list of honorable mentions, so I'll just read them off. I won't give any descriptions. Okay. So I have GoldenEye, NFL Blitz, NBA Showtime on NBC on N64. Incredible game. It's like basically an arcade game. We talked about NCAA Football 14, All-Star Baseball 2001. This game called Baseball Stars on the NES is an incredible game. And then Madden 2004 was my favorite Madden.
Michael Vick, good stuff.
Oh yeah, Michael Vick.
Yep.
I think for me, Ken Griffey Jr. Baseball on N64. That was such a good game.
It's a great game.
Yeah, it's a great game.
Yeah.
And I kind of forgot about it until Chris, you were walking through some of those other ones. And then the other one for me that's really underrated, I think, is Worms Armageddon. Have either of you played this before?
Yes. I can say I've actually played this game. Yep. It's a
turn-based game,
and you've brought back a lot of memories.
Yeah, it's a turn-based game.
Yeah.
Where you, in essence, try to destroy these other worms and either get them off the cliff or drown them. Funny. It's actually really vulgar when we think about it that way. We talk about it in depth. But
Chris, we need to introduce you to this game.
Yeah, no, we should all play Worms Armageddon together. It would be completely worth it. But yeah, that game is so fun, and those turn-based games are so fun. And out of those anymore, but turn-based games are always just really fun, where it's one at a time. You're not all simultaneously going at each other. All right, it's good to be back. Thank you for listening. hopefully we brought back some, some video game memories for for those bro gamers out there. Do you guys know what the definition of a bro gamer is? By the way,
I do
so
not.
it's a player. It's a person that just plays either. I
Do
think
you?
so. I think so. You play sports games
A bro that
and
plays
you play
games.
Halo or COD, and that's all you play.
There you go.
Oh, great.
No, there you
Right.
go.
Glad,
bro gamer.
glad you guys are
Yeah.
in on that. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back maybe next week. I think we'll try to throw in a couple more weeks here in a row. Try to do some stuff with second half of baseball. Try to do some stuff with the NFL. The NFL calendar should be picking up here a little bit more. We'll be talking some Olympics because while we know nothing going in, it will be exciting and there will be things to talk about. So thank you for listening. We'll see you guys next time.